build your future properly. And you have to have people around you, Business 101, that are looking out for your best interest. You need to have these elements come together smoothly and to be integrated properly. Because once again, this is the Wild West. This is that time where, the charging companies are looking to sell their boxes. The software companies are looking to sell their hardware. The construction companies, the solar companies, all these different companies are looking to get into that stream.
Welcome to Green Island EV's YouTube channel. Now, most of you watching probably recognize me, Zach Miller, as the host of Stream, trucktractortrailer.com production. But, there's so much going on in it's not just the EV space, the zero emission vehicles, moving the logistics into more sustainable modes and operations. We thought it's really important to have dedicated channel to all of that going on. And so to that end, really honored to be joined today by Josh Robin and Kyle Bine to really talk about the EV space and what's going on with EVs. But guys, I want to let you guys introduce yourself and what you're doing, and then we'll kick off this Wild West EV conversation here. So Josh, let's start with you.
Sure. So my name is Josh Robin. I'm one of the co-founders of Cordis Technology. I have an extensive background in the automotive sphere, from turning wrench on these hybrid electric vehicles all the way to managing departments. I've done consulting for C-level executives inside of the industry. Currently sitting as the chair of the EV and autonomous program for Hudson Valley Community College, which is up here in the Capital Region. And man, there's so much that we could talk about today. So much. I've published in Fixed Ops. I'm a huge enthusiast for these vehicles and for what we are trying to do here. Once again, I could go off on the rails, but I'll pass it over to Kyle.
Thank you, Josh. And thank you, Zach, for having us on today. My name is Kyle. I'm a classically trained engineer who has moved through the civil construction space, the wireless implementation, 4G, 5G millimeter wave network, onto the EV space. In the past, I've designed systems that are fast charging with energy storage and cellular communication overlays on one parcel. So my background is on the deployment, hardware, software, and for fueling, maintenance, and safety.
Unbelievable. So, I mean, between the automotive experience, the engineering experience, you guys have really, I think you've been at the forefront of seeing the revolution, so to speak, and where we're going to really, scale up into EVs. But let's be honest here, right? We have the political climate, which is very much, gung-ho, EV, zero emission vehicles. Let's go. We should have done this yesterday. We have the media, which is, similar to that. And certainly the business media, which covers the investments. There's so much money pouring into EV right now. I mean, good luck keeping track of all that. I know you guys keep track of all that, but I'm sure that's a full-time job in addition to all your other full-time jobs. But then there's the end user who's just like, we don't know where the charging is going to be, what the subsidies are going to look like. How do we start incorporating this into our operations? So what is going on right now with EV? What do people need to know? If you're considering buying an electric vehicle, particularly a commercial, what do they need to know? What's going through their heads right now?
Do you want to take this one, Kyle?
Sure. So that's a broad topic, but we're happy to see that people are starting to look into this. Where when Josh and I started Cordis Technology, the first thing we were looking at is, where are these knowledge gaps? There's vehicle manufacturers, there's companies that are making fueling hardware and software. There are some third-party shops starting to look at maintenance for these. we're really looking at where were the knowledge gaps. And we quickly found out that there are some very siloed relationships between the end user, a fleet customer, and the vehicle manufacturer. So to give you an example, one of the first things that we talk to our clients about is, where have you spoken to the electrical utility where your fuel is coming from? Because we're transitioning from traditional liquid fueled vehicles to vehicles that are fueled by electricity. So have you talked to the one company, your service utility, that provides your fuel? Like, oh, I should talk to them. We would recommend that, because you might have to upgrade your service. So, and the traditional first questions people ask is, well, what charger do I need? What vehicle should I buy? And our response to that is, how many miles do you drive? What's the consumption rate? How much energy do you use to drive a mile? And what is the availability of electricity at your particular parcel where the vehicles will be located? So the conversation right now is kind of starting with the, like, what fueling hardware do I buy? What does the gas pump look like? I don't think anybody can name a manufacturer of a gas pump at a mobile station. I challenge anyone to name that who's not in the industry, a casual person, but you can name Wallbox. People can name EVgo, Electrify America, but a lot of that hardware is made by other people, right? So we're trying to move the conversation a little bit more upstream in terms of what your needs are. And then Josh could talk a lot about the other ends of things we say are being lost in the margins.
Well, we'll get to that in a second, because I could tell you anecdotally, that's exactly a conversation I had with somebody. I was on a call about maybe two or 3 weeks ago, and from a mid to large size fleet in New York State, who's looking to incorporate a couple of EVs into the fleet. He's wants to be proactive in it. And that's exactly what happened, Kai. He had the conversation with his utility provider about what it would take to install it. And the cost was astronomical, and the subsidies didn't cover it. So he could have gotten some subsidies for the vehicles to offset that cost, but there was nothing he could have done to offset the infrastructure upgrades he would have needed at his facility. And he said that would have blown my budget for the year. He's like, I had to delay it.
Yeah. So that speaks to, that's what's happening everywhere in this industry for people that are starting to have these conversations. You need to have a audit done on your facility, on your property. You need to look at the scalability of your business. And a lot of these programs are very small and they're piecemeal. We'll look at 1 unit, maybe 2 units. And when you're dealing with a small component like that, you don't really need to go that deep. But if you're actually looking at this from an end-to-end picture, you really need to do your homework. You need to have, as we call it, like an EV expert on your team that's looking out for you, that is monitoring all of these different elements. You need to know who's working with who, what component works with what component, the interoperability, and if your location itself can scale. Because today you might be able to support that infrastructure that you need for the next 2 to 3 years, which the construction site, anybody that you're paying inside of this ecosystem to perform that task is happy to do that. But when you hit that year 3 and you need that additional scale, you might not be able to. Your facility, once again, with those capital expenses, it might be so cost prohibitive that you need to look at a different plot of real estate. So when you start looking at this conversation, especially if you're motivated by the state legislature to do this, you really need to be looking at this years before you're going to put these vehicles on your property, because a lot goes into this.
That's a fantastic point. And do you guys think that when the state legislature gives years, like, 2025, 2030, that, I mean, based on what you said, there has to be an enormous disconnect right there. That they would just say, oh, it's 2025, but the fleets are looking at it like, we need to be thinking 2025 now. We can't afford this, now, maybe 2030, maybe 2035, but you want us on a 3-year, you want everything revved up in 3 years. That doesn't sound possible.
Yeah. And again, we're happy that Zach, yourself, and others are starting to think about this. We actually did a webinar series for a New York State transportation group that's focused on school buses.
Mm-hmm.
Something that everybody has probably touched in their life. And it's a great place to start, we think, because it's something that is with children. And it's something that is traditionally funded by the state. It's a publicly funded entity, which is why you're seeing some of these transit operations go that route as well. And in one of the webinars, we were talking about your budget years. So to your point, where you're thinking about this, hey, I'm looking at 2025 to have some of this, the trajectory of new vehicle sales to be zero emission. That doesn't mean you could do all of that in one budget year. So when you think about what some of these schools and businesses are doing, it might take a year or two just to plan. So you need to associate electrical upgrade costs or consulting services for route analysis and start to plan all of that utility upgrades for the first year or two. And then the vehicle purchase might be the third year. So trying to lump all that into a very compressed schedule is something that's extremely difficult to do when the electric utilities start to get all of these requests at the same time. So it's not just your ability to scale, it's everyone around you trying to scale as well. And then
I guess, Josh, that goes into the whole, well, you have, the state legislature and then maybe some of these, state funded groups trying to get these EV credits out there to the marketplace. But then they're coming to you and saying, this timeline makes no sense. They don't know what they're talking about. There is that disconnect between downstream and upstream. And how do we sort of talk these fleets off the ledge and just say, hey, calm down. We get it. Don't worry so much about what the state is saying. Let's build out a plan and, it'll be fine.
Yeah. I mean, in order to do something radical, which would be converting your, liquid fuel vehicles to electrons, one would say that you do need a forcing function. You do need to have a, an accelerated timeline, because that will force people to adopt. That forces competition in the marketplace, which we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, for programs, especially once again with taxpayer funded, programs, schools, municipalities, these are things that need to be looked at now. Scaling is very difficult. This is a new, unique industry, and you need to have a end-to-end understanding of all the different elements inside of this ecosystem. Once again, the margins are critical in this, and a lot of people are only looking at this from a vehicle or a fueling side, and you have to look at this in a completely new way than you ever have in your business model's experience. There's ways to monetize this. There's ways to make these assets as opposed to liabilities. There's cost reduction, but in the end, you need to have an understanding as to where you are and how to build your future properly. And you have to have people around you, Business 101, that are looking out for your best interest. You need to have these elements come together smoothly and to be integrated properly. Because once again, this is the Wild West. This is that time where The charging companies are looking to sell their boxes. The software companies are looking to sell their hardware. The construction companies, the solar companies, all these different companies are looking to get into that stream to get those critical elements so that they can continue to do business. But for the business entity themselves, whether you are a school, whether you're a private fleet, whether you're a municipality's fleet, you need to look at this in a completely new, holistic way.
And that's where you guys come in, right?
Yeah.
So how would someone get in touch with you to help them run the audit, build out an actual viable EV plan?
Kyle, would you like to take this one?
Sure. Thanks, Josh. If you couldn't tell, Zach, Josh and I have known each other for about 20 years.
Wait, Kyle, did you grow up in Queens too?
No, I did not.
Oh, all right.
I unfortunately did not.
Just two Queens guys on the podcast.
I am close to the last stop on the Metro North Railroad. The second to last stop. So in the vicinity. A great way to get in contact with us is our website, cornistechnology.com. It goes over some of the programs and explains some of the concepts we've been talking about today, such as electric vehicle programs are more than just fueling. Thinking about safety, thinking about maintenance, and thinking about staffing is a major component of these rollouts that we believe is something that needs to be looked at as strongly as the fueling in the vehicles themselves.
When is your next, so I guess I should probably say, we're recording this February 4th. When is your next webinar series? When does that start?
We have a few pending right now.
Okay.
And, feel free to go to our website for any new updates on it.
Okay, perfect. Because I think that provides exactly the resource that a lot of these, especially New York-based fleets are looking for right now. Because, and I've been on some webinars run by some of the state agencies, some I think of the larger business groups, and it goes back to Josh's point. It's like, no one's really saying what needs to be said. It's just a whole lot of, let's try to sell a couple of different things that may not even fit together. So I think that's perfect. You guys provide that fantastic resource for them. I do just want to, any last thoughts? Because again, it's early February. The state legislature is in session. They're moving very quickly on the timeline. Any last thoughts about what a fleet might want to know or consider, right here, early 2022?
Sure. Plan early and ask a lot of questions.
Ask a lot of questions. I love it. Josh, Kyle, thank you so much for joining us today. The link to the website is going to be in the description below. Josh and Kyle's information is going to be in the link below. He said it, not me. Ask him questions. Shoot him an email. Go to the website. You don't know what you don't know. It is the Wild West. There is no wait. I'll ask it. I'll put it out there. Kyle, is there such a thing as a stupid question regarding EV?
No.
No, there is not. No, there is not. Ask away. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.